morning, everybody, and a good Yontif. Today's Tu B'Av. Making this video for Beverly H, who sent already 3 identical comments. The first time it was apropos to the video, and the next 2 really had nothing to do with the video. And I might have to erase those from the video if you don't mind, since it really didn't have anything to do with it. The question is as follows. Her understanding from what she's seen is that most Haredi groups are not anti-Zionist in the way that Satmar is. In fact, some appear to be pro-Zionist and some appear to be indifferent for the most part. She mentioned various communities, Borough Park, Muncie, Lakewood, Crown Heights. Each of these communities is different, and so we'll try to examine that a bit in this morning's video. I remember some years ago I was talking to a Hasidic Rebbe from Bnei Brak, who we would identify because of his grandfather's initial identity. We would say he was a member of the Aguda, and perhaps we could say like that, but let's talk about what what exactly we're talking about here. So let's first and foremost talk about, there are 3 major divisions, and within those several subdivisions within the Orthodox Jewish world vis-a-vis Zionism. There is the anti-Zionist, the non-Zionist, and the religious Zionist, basically. For the most part, the modern Orthodox world identifies with religious Zionism, with exceptions of certain individuals. You think of someone like Professor Yaakov Rabkin, quite obviously modern Orthodox, both in his ideology and his practice, but fiercely anti-Zionist. Maybe even more anti-Zionist than members of the ultra-Orthodox communities, in certain aspects of his approach. Now, within the religious Zionists, you have various approaches as well. You have basically the 2 major, I would say there are 3 major ideologues within the religious Zionist community. The oldest would be Rabbi Kook, even though he's not the first. I'm saying from what we have today. So you have the Kook approach, you have Rabbi Soloveitchik from Yeshiva University, his approach, and although he's probably not, the other 2 sometimes within their circles would be considered a gadol. I guess the same thing you could say, and even within other circles to a certain extent, be considered to be Gedolei Yisrael to a certain extent. The third, only his own Talmidim would say that, although other people would say as a Voilu Yid and Erlich Yid. I've even heard quoted from anti-Zionist rabbis saying this, just they disagree with his certain ideas he has. The third would be Rabbi Kahane, Hashem Yimkom Damo. We don't really have time, though that's really not the point of this video, to discuss the differences between Rav Kook, Rav Soloveitchik, and Rav Kahane, The major difference between Rav Kook and Rav Soloveitchik, though, we could briefly say Rav Kook was a bit more of a mystic, obviously more than Rav Soloveitchik was, although Rav Soloveitchik was a mystic in his own right, in his own way. Rav Soloveitchik was more practical, though, than Rav Kook was. To the point where some people have thought perhaps Rav Soloveitchik wasn't really a Zionist. I've heard, one a Choshev Yid from Williamsburg, a Rav in Williamsburg, and when he told me this, he wasn't a Rav at the time, but now he's a Rav in this Medrash in Williamsburg, and also a big Veer and a big very Choshev Balabas, and he opened us up this Medrash. He's a Rav, and he deserves it. He's not just he definitely is a Bar Hachi that he could be a Rav. And getroffen etwas Seiches, auch getroffen azoi, that he found the title that, for his Medrash. So this particular Rav, it's a person I love very much. I don't really keep in contact with him, but I hold him in very, very high regard. So I remember when I was a bacher, he told me this. He said, "Molge Herz from Rabbi Soloveitchik is gewesen sei Chushev Yid, es nicht gewesen kein Zioini." He said, you heard it once from Rav J.B. Soloveitchik. Sometimes people want to insult Rav Soloveitchik, they just call him J.B. But then you don't give him the honorific Rav. So he gave both. It was kind of, but that's the Hamish approach, because it's for both sides. He said he was a very distinguished Jew, a Chushev Yid. That's more, to say a distinguished Jew is an understatement. What it means, a Chushev Yid, when you say in Yiddish among the Hamish Oilam. And then the biggest compliment that a Satmar Chassid could give to Rav Soloveitchik, of course, his Talmidim, for the most part, would disagree. His own disciples would disagree. But he said it was nicht gewesen kein Zioni. He was not a Zionist. And what was the proof that he had? He said he once heard a tape from Rav Soloveitchik where he said, the Medinas Yisrael, es ist nicht kein as Chalte de Geula, es ist nicht kein as Chalte das Chalte, es hat gut nicht mit Mashiach. Ich bin ein Patriot, und wegen dem bin ich Teumich von der Medina. Translate to English, he said that, we often, this is not what he's saying, but we'll often hear, even in there's a prayer that many non-Orthodox synagogues recite for the state of Israel, and they call it Reishis Smichas Gulasenu, the first flowering of our redemption. And the terminology comes from an earlier terminology. It's similar to a term Aschalta de Geula, the beginning of the redemption, of the process of Mashiach coming. That religious Zionists, particularly from Rav Kook's ideology, would say that this is the beginning of the redemption. But interestingly, Rav Soloveitchik is quoted as saying, and it's on a tape, that this is not the beginning of the redemption, and not the beginning of the beginning. This has nothing with the coming of the Messiah. This has nothing to do with the coming of the Messiah. And it says his only reason for supporting the state of Israel are patriotic reasons and not religious reasons. And so you could almost say he was a Zionist who was religious, but he was not a religious Zionist. That's probably a more accurate approach than to say that he wasn't a Zionist at all. However, that's, meaning that statement that he was not a Zionist, that's coming from a different community, coming from a Samer Chassid, a Rav in Williamsburg, who's a Chassid in the Samer community. But that would be one thing. But many of my own Rebbeim were Talmidim of Rabbi Soloveitchik. And my Rosh Hashivas, Al Gezund Sein, Yishev for Shleima, Rabbi Braunschweigel, who was the Talmud Mufak of Rabbi Soloveitchik. I recall there was a conference I attended in Washington, D.C. And my Rosh Hashiva was there. I hadn't seen him maybe over a year at the time. And he got up to speak. And interestingly, at this lunch where my Rosh Hashiva was speaking, well, it was before lunch that my Rosh Hashiva spoke. And actually at the lunch they gave to, what's the guy's name? He used to be the chief rabbi of Israel, he got in trouble, Metzger. They gave to Metzger to speak during the lunch, usually. But to speak at that particular conference, just to give some context, the speakers who were, in the auditorium were the Choshev Rabbanim, and the speakers by the lunch were the entertainers. The Kiruv rabbis, not the Rosh Hashiva, not a big Choshev Rav. The Gedolim, quote unquote, would be at the conference hall, and by the lunch would be the entertainers, and so Metzger was with the entertainers, all right, I don't have to say anything else about that. When they picked who should lead benching, by that lunch, they had both chief rabbis there from Israel, and they gave it to my Rosh Hashiva. So anyway, as I'm pretty sure that both the chief rabbis were present when my Rosh Hashiva was speaking. Most of the speakers were either in English or in Hebrew. The only one who spoke in Yiddish was Rabbi Kovarsky, who was outside. Rosh Hashiva from Panovich, wonderful person. Not only a Gadol B'Torah, but a very geschmacked person. So anyway, but like I said, my Rosh Hashiva learned in YU. He learned by Rabbi Soloveitchik. He's a Musmach of Rabbi Soloveitchik, and he also learned in his shir. And he said, my Rebbe, he was speaking in English, but he put in some Yiddish words. He said, my Rebbe, Rabbi Yashaber, is nicht gewähnt kein Zioni, is gewähnt a Vorlied. He said, my teacher, my master, my Rebbe, Rabbi Yashaber, that's how he referred to him. He said that's how B'nai Yeshiva referred to him. He said, he said, this is what my Yeshiva said. He said the modern Orthodox referred to him as the Rav, and the B'nai Torah referred to him as Rabbi Yashaber. That's what my Yeshiva said. And he was a Talmud of his, and his approach to Rabbi Soloveitchik was that he was really, and I've heard this elsewhere, he could have been Rosh Hashiva, in any normal yeshiva, and he would have fit in. What I didn't hear from Rosh Hashiva, but I did hear from other Talmidim of his, other Rebbeim of mine, was that, the reason why he couldn't land a job at a normal yeshiva, quote unquote, from the Haredi standpoint, was because his Rebbitzin didn't cover her hair, and she wore mini skirts or whatever. I don't know, not mini skirts, but she didn't dress like a Rebbitzin. But the thing is that I mentioned this to one of my Rebbeim, and he mentioned more mainstream Haredi Rosh Yeshiva, who also this yeshiva might be considered somewhat modern in certain Haredi circles, especially the more extreme Haredi circles. He said the same thing, mostly because this particular yeshiva allowed their Talmidim to attend college, and a Goyish college, which was a Catholic college where they would attend. And so because of that, a lot of more Haredi Rabbanim were upset about this. So anyway, oh my goodness, this is not going to work. So anyway, he said this particular Shiva, also his wife didn't cover hair either. So, but that's neither here nor there. That's not the point. What we're saying here. But so anyway, the question what was being asked. Oh, so we'll get back to so Meir Shiva, who was a Talmud of Rabbi Soloveitchik, said that he was not a Zionist. He was a pious Jew. He was a good Jew. A voil yid. Voil means, sometimes you say a little kid, oh, this is a voil yid. I don't know, like the different words in Yiddish, So, and it's interesting because both chief rabbis of Israel were there when he said this statement. So that's just an interesting. Oh my goodness, it's so late. Not that far though. However, to testify that Rabbi Soloveitchik was indeed a Zionist, I'll say what I heard from my Rav, Rabbi Fishbane. We know from the video. He told me when he was a Bacher, him and his brother were up in the Catskills. They lived in Brooklyn at the time. Williamsburg then was more like Flatbush now. So he said that they were at I don't know, they were at the Concord, I don't know which, and there was a Mizrahi convention, and they heard that they were not there for the convention. They were just staying there, just stopped, and they didn't know there was a Mizrahi convention. Maybe they were working there. I don't know exactly what was the situation, but they happened to be there, and they said, "Oh, let's hear." I mean, they were from a chutzner that would refer to him as JB. They would say, let's see what JB has to say. Let's go listen to his lecture." And they said they stood up, from different Achronim, say, why, when in the morning we make morning blessings, are we so negative? If you an Orthodox sitter will say the words, Shelo Asani Goy, Shelo Asani Avid, Shelo Asani Isha. So why do we say, thank God that He didn't make me a Gentile? Rather, we should say bracha she'asani Yisrael, she'asani Yehudi, whatever. Why don't we say a bracha? You made me a Jew. You made me an Israelite, which is what the conservative movement says, and I think they have some Makoros that that are older than that they base themselves on. I think of an Italian Sidurim, something, I'm not sure. But the question is, why do we word it in the negative? It did not make me a Gentile. Why don't we say in the positive that you made me a Jew? Do you thank God? And the answer is it's not to be negative against Gentiles. First of all, why are we thanking? This is a side point. We're thanking for the mitzvahs that we get to do, that other people don't have these opportunities, and that's what we're thanking God for all of the mitzvahs that, non-Jews have 7 mitzvahs, and and Jews have 613. Although, all right, maybe you want to break it up. That so the most we find, maybe Gentiles have like 80 mitzvahs, and Jews have 613. You compare it. Gentiles have the 7 laws of Noah, and the Jews have the 10 commandments. Still, it's more. And we thank for it. So which kind of is supportive for my friend Rav Asher's ideology. But or really, it's not just his. It's Nachman Breslov. A lot of approaches that say that we should encourage non-Jews to convert to Judaism. So anyway, if they want to, they don't have to. If they want to, not going to hell if they don't. But anyway, still, if that's the case, we would still fulfill that by saying, by thanking God for making us a Jew. Why do we have to thank God for not making us a Gentile? The answer is, which is something that I say often, and it kind of goes along with something that my friend Rabbi Asher Meza also says, is that it's arrogant to go and call yourself a Jew. You really think you're living up to what it means to be a Jew? You understand what that means? Even in Halacha, I've said that there's 2 types of people. There's 3 types of people. You have a Jew, a Gentile, and then you have a non-Gentile who's neither Jew nor Gentile, meaning someone who they're born Jewish, or even they originally converted and then they went away from Chosir L'Suroi, and they stop believing in God, or they convert to a different religion, or whatever it is. They Machal Shabbos before Hesia. They openly disagree. They have no regard at all for the Sabbath. Not even publicly. Privately, maybe it's a different story, but publicly, they have no regard for the Sabbath. It shows that they don't believe in God. They don't believe that God created the world. So forth. They don't care about it. So then you don't have a title of a Jew, but you don't become a Gentile either. And so out of humility, we make a bracha shloyas and igoy, because we're not holding on the level to say that we're really Jewish, but we know we're not Gentiles because we're not. It's not there's anything wrong being a Gentile, but there is something wrong to be an impious Jew, or not just impious, but a heretical Jew. So out of humility, we don't say bracha shesani Yisrael, but rather shaloyas and igoy. And so there's various achronim that say like this. I think the Magen Avram, I'm not sure. So anyway, Rabbi Fishbein said when he was a bacher, he heard Rabbi Soloveitchik quoting this, and he said if it was up to him, if he was from the Anshe Knesset Gedola, he would have been masakin a bracha shesani Mizrahi. This was at the Mizrahi convention. He would have made a bracha thanking God that you made me Mizrahi. You made me from the religious Zionist movement. But I don't feel that I live up to all the ideals of the Mizrahi movement. So from that, Rabbi Fishbein, he said to me, so how can you say he wasn't a Zionist if he could say something like that? First of all, maybe that was earlier, maybe he changed his mind later in his life. That's one possibility. But the other thing is Mizrahi is more than just Zionism. It's also ideas of the world and so forth, and how to relate with the world and so forth, even though that's kind of gone to the wayside and it just became more more about Zionism, but Rav Kook had more to say than just Zionism. But in any event, practically speaking, Rabbi Soloveitchik, for example, his feeling was always that he is an American Jew, and and as an American, he had no right to tell Israel what to do. And so, therefore, Rabbi Soloveitchik clearly held that Israel does not represent all Jews; it represents its citizens, and not all Jews. It's not the Jewish state in the sense that Israel wants to claim itself to be. Because if that was the case, then every Jew in the world would have a right to vote in Israeli elections and so forth. And obviously this is something like, for example, Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro often points out in his opposition to Zionism is why do we why should we be blamed for what Zionism does and so forth, whatever it is. So it shouldn't be in our name even. We never voted for it. We know it's totally unfair for Israel to call itself a Jewish state when there are plenty of Jews who don't agree with it, with its very existence. But anyway, this was an explanation of religious Zionism from this, not really an explanation, but an exploration, because it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what Rabbi Soloveitchik held, because of other examples is that he said that anyone who says Hallel, the Gemara in Pesachim says anyone who says Hallel every day is a Mecharf Megadev. Anyone who says Hallel daily is almost committing blasphemy, and if that's the case, so he said to say Hallel for Yom Ha'atzmaut is blasphemy. That's what Rabbi Soloveitchik said. However, there are various reports of how he conducted himself in yeshiva when they said Hallel. What probably makes the most sense to me, from what I've heard from various sources, is that he would stand up with the siddur open to Hallel, but he wouldn't move his lips. He wouldn't actually say the words. He would have the siddur open in order he shouldn't be Parshman and Tzibur, so he shouldn't separate from the community. But he didn't actually say it. This is what I've heard. I think that's what I remember. Rabbi Braunspiegel said. Interestingly, Rabbi Braunspiegel said that Rabbi David Lipschitz, one of my other rabbis, Rabbi Moshe Weinberger, my rabbi from high school, although he was a Muslim of Rabbi Soloveitchik, but he was more of a Talmud of Rabbi David Lipschitz and the Svalka Roof. And David Lipschitz, he said, Rabbi Braunspiegel told us that by Rabbi David Lipschitz, by his minyan in YU, they would say Tachanun. If it came out Bahab, they would say Slichus, and then they would also say Hallel. They'd say they'd cover all the bases, even though he really didn't want to say Hallel, but it was what the Talmidim wanted. But he insisted that he still had to say Tachanun and Slichus if it was Bahab. Briefly, I think this is going to be one separate video. Rav Kook's ideology which was probably what Rav Soloveitchik was referring to when he mentioned the ideology of Mizrahi. I don't know enough about Rav Kook to really say. It seems pretty obvious, though, from anyone who studies his biography and so forth, although he was a great genius, it's quite obvious that he suffered from some sort of a bipolar disorder, because he would contradicts himself so much that it's really impossible to pinpoint anything on him of what he actually believed. There's even what to say that he made certain anti-Zionist statements, and he certainly held his opponents in high regard, and respected them, and often helped them. And it's well known, for example, that he was very friendly for many years with the real Rav of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Sonnenfeld, the big tzaddik and the big gadol of Israel, Rabbi Sonnenfeld, and who was essentially the founder of the Eidah Haredis. And they used to go together, two of them, to what we would call today to do kiruv. They didn't use that term back then, but that's what they did. Well, together they would go make a Shabbaton. If you use such a term with non-frum kids and try to be makar of them and so on. The story I heard was that one Shabbos they were together, and the kids outside were dancing and singing, and Rav Chaim was so upset because he wanted to sleep and they were keeping him up, and he came to the window to yell at the kids to be quiet so he could get some sleep. And he sees the boys and girls dancing together in Taruvas. Wasn't sneers, and he saw Rav Kook sitting there by the window with a big smile and tears in his eyes, and he said, "V'shavu banim l'gvulam," and the children are returning back to their, look how beautiful it is that the Jews are returning to Eretz Yisrael. And he said, "What are you talking about there?" Rabbi Chaim said, "They're insulting the Holy Land by bringing tumah to it. If there's one place you shouldn't be dancing boys and girls together, it's in Eretz Yisrael. It's so holy. What are you doing?" And he said after that, Rabbi Chaim didn't have any more patience for Rav Kook's illness. I guess that that's the kindest thing we could say about it. Again, he was a great genius, and when he was, one of his personalities was quite pious. He would go back and forth. He would go to very strong extremes, one level to the other. He suffered from a very strong bipolar disorder. It's very obvious to anybody who studies his life. He'd go to these extremes. He would eat meat and this and that, and then he would go to other extremes and so whatever. And now some people say that Rav Kook was influenced somewhat by the Sabbatean ideology, by Shabtai Tzvi, which certainly the secular Zionist movement had its root, or it was totally Sabbatean in its roots, Sabbatean and Frankist in its roots. You can trace all of these families, that supported the Zionist movement, and many other prominent secular Jews, to these very few families that were involved in these horrible, horrible cults. I mean, the Sabbateans were much bigger. The Frankists were a much smaller group, much more disgusting, and but both of them, were behind many of the left-wing movements in the Western world altogether. Very dangerous and horrible movements, and we're suffering from them to this day. But you see certain hinges of Sabbateanism in Rabbi Kook's ideology as well, even though he was religious. I mean, obviously, Shabtai Tzvi and Jacob Frank also, excuse me, cloaked their heresy in a religious garb as well. Next different ideologue from the religious Zionist movement, much later than the others, younger than the others, but his approach was radically different, was Rabbi Kahane. If there's one thing we could say about Rabbi Kahane, Hashem Yimkom Domai, may the Lord avenge his blood, was that he was perhaps the anti-Sabbatean approach within the religious Zionist movement, because he was fiercely right-wing and identified in certain ways with certain aspects of the Haredi world, and other ways didn't, obviously. He had tremendous respect for the Haredi world, even though he disagreed with them. Generally, he was respectful in his disagreement. Not always, but generally. Now, although quite often when modern Orthodox boys would ask him, why do the Haredi Gedolim disagree with you? His answer would not be an intellectually honest answer. He would say, you have a TV in your house? He said, yeah. He said, so why are you quoting me Rav Shach to say? Get rid of your TV first, and then we can talk about Rav Shach. That's not an intellectually honest answer, meaning, if you're modern Orthodox, you have to be religious Zionist, because all the modern Orthodox are religious Zionists, and if you're going to be a Zionist, the only Zionism that makes sense is Kahane Zionism. That was basically his answer. Although he understood, there's a video of him at YU, and they asked him, there it was older, college students asking him a question, similar question, and his answer was much more honest and very true, was that we don't have a Sanhedrin today, which is wise of him to be cognizant of. The chief rabbinate of Israel is not a Sanhedrin. They didn't have this nascent Sanhedrin that we have today in his day. But even if they did, I doubt he would have made much ado out of it, to be honest. And he said, forget about politics, anything. Let's say, whatever it is, some Torah view, some opinion in halacha, that was valid. And he said, all the Gedolei Yisrael had one opinion. Let's say, for example, just giving an example, the Belzer Rav had a different opinion. He said, what do you think the Belzer Hasidim would do? He said, I'll give you two guesses. He said, of course, they would follow what their Rebbe says, and they would be right. Because we don't have a Sanhedrin, and so everyone has to follow their own Rebbeinu. And he says, so then they asked, who's your Rebbe? And he said, that's none of your business, but he said it was, what's his name, Mordechai Eliyahu. He says if he has a Shaila, he goes to Mordechai Eliyahu. He says, but I know how to learn myself also. But when I have a Kasha, I have a Shaila, I don't know, I go to Mordechai Eliyahu. I heard that he also went to, he also went to Pinchas Steinberg. Both of them I remember. In fact, I saw both of them together once in Chasana. And I was able to get brachas from both of them. So Chuzim Yagin Alei. Mordechai Eliyahu was very Zionist in his ideology, and he was one of the few who actually he gave haskama to Rabbi Kahane, to his farm. Another interesting thing in that same lecture of Rabbi Kahane, he said, you shouldn't say, oh, this is Satmar, this is Satmar. He said, this is Torah. He said, everybody should learn what the Satmar Rav has to say. I disagree with him, but it's also Torah, and we shouldn't insult him. He said, and every Talmud Chacham should learn the Veil Moshe just like you learn anything else, and learn it the way a Talmud Chacham learns, and be open to what he has to say. And if you find that convincing, then you're in your right to follow it. And if you find a different shita convincing, you have your right to follow it. I mean, he had his, Rabbi Kahane and his farm had his attempts to answer for an upshlock Samarov, which I found to be pretty weak personally. But he was more or less respectful. I learned what he had to say. Even when I was younger and I was more, I was very into Rabbi Kahane. It kind of didn't sit right with me what he was saying about the Shlosh Shavuos. Didn't really make sense. To me, it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe you have a different view, but for the most part, I think most people are Zionists not because it makes sense, but because it makes sense. Just to be honest, most people are Zionists, which is fine. Mashiach isn't here yet. We'll see who's right when Mashiach comes. It's the same thing we say to the Christians. So anyway, of course, Rabbi Kahane basically he wanted to take Malachim as the halacha in Eretz Yisrael Bisman Hazeh, meaning whatever the Rambam says, we should follow. Now, those who disagree with him say that these things only apply after Mashiach comes or when we have the Malchus, and they don't apply Bisman Hazeh. But that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to take the laws of kings and apply it to the Knesset in Israel. However, neither Rabbi Soloveitchik nor Rabbi Kook had that approach. Although, to be honest, from those three, Rabbi Kahane makes the most sense. Even though, again, I disagree. But if you're going to be Zionist, you're going to have a state of Israel, it makes sense like that. The only reason it's not practical is as follows. There are so many different types of ways to be a Jew. I'm saying to be an Orthodox Jew. You have the Ashkenazim, you have the Sephardim. Within those groups, you have different, the Yemenites are really not Sephardim, they're their own group. And the difference really between the Middle Eastern Sephardim and the Spanish and Portuguese Sephardim are almost night and day. Although you could say maybe it's a difference between the Yekkes and the Hasidim to a certain extent. Essentially, the Spanish and Portuguese are the Yekkes, and the Middle Eastern Sephardim are the Hasidim, to a certain extent. Although they've come more under the influence of literature community for various reasons. And it's interesting because some of the old Yekkes, in a sense, the Oberlander, the ones who came to Hungary and so forth, came more under the influence of the Hasidim in many ways. Dushinsky, Rav Dushinsky is called the Dushinsky Rebbe, Ha'arbe Dushinsky, and they originally come from Ashkenazim, and they became Hasidim, and the reason was because they would probably go off the derech if they didn't. That's the answer that Rav Dushinsky gave. And the same thing the Sephardim, because of the threat of the Zionists, if they didn't become Litvakas, they probably wouldn't have been from at all. That's just the history behind it. The Shas, is became like the Litvish Svardim in a certain sense. They still have their own culture, but they, So the thing is, you have so many different ways of being Jewish. Like Rabbi Kahane said, we don't have a Sanhedrin. You have different approaches within Das Torah, and forget about the fact that, although it's also true, you have movements that are outside of Orthodoxy. It's hard to pick which one is going to be the quote-unquote Sanhedrin. How do you make a decision? Well, you bring everybody together and you vote. That's how the Sanhedrin used to do. Within the Sanhedrin, you had different views and you voted. Okay. How do you pick who gets to be on the Sanhedrin? Even in the Second Temple times, there were certain times when the Sadducees infiltrated the Sanhedrin. There were other times they had their own. They made it a shtikla yantiv when they got rid of the Sadducees from the Sanhedrin. So, do we include the conservative? Do we include the reform? Maybe the biggest scholars from the reform and conservative movement could sit in the Sanhedrin. How do we decide that? If again, if there was in Bayesheni there were heretics who were the Sadducees, their heresy was much worse than the conservative. Conservative are probably not even heretics. Certainly there are certain streams within conservative Judaism that are not heresy. They're getting fewer and fewer. But for the most part, it's true that the conservative are not really heretical. We disagree with them on certain things, but they're still within the realm of Torah. And I'm saying they're rabbis, not the Hamanam, not the average person, but the rabbis, for the most part, are Orthodox, with a little O. And their lack of orthopraxy, there are different levels. In general, they're makabel whatever. For a long time, they were makabel whatever Chazal said. Now they feel that they're bigger b'chachma minyan. I don't know that they could vote to get rid of it. The Rabbanan, I don't know, but it's kind of a strange thing. But they tend to just take a makel approach within halacha, and it's halachically valid for the most part, and certain things are problematic though. But for the most part, it's pretty Jewish. So how do you decide? How do you decide who gets to be in the Sanhedrin? And so it just won't work. That's the answer. Meaning, you can't have a Jewish state, Bisman has said. It just doesn't work. We are too. I'm saying a real Jewish state that follows halacha. It just doesn't work. You see, try to have a rabbanut, and it's a mess. It's a big mess because nobody holds from them. The left, the non-from, couldn't give a damn, but they're stuck with them, or else you have to get on a plane and go to Cyprus to get married. You can't get married in your own town unless you want to be married by the rabbanut. Most part, people don't care unless the rabbanut says these two people can't get married, then they have to go to Cyprus. Some people care. Some people are like, I want my conservative rabbi to marry us. Really, the truth is, if the rabbanut approves these two people getting married, there's no reason why the conservative rabbi can't be Messiah Kedusha. But it's politics, you're allowed to be Messiah Kedusha for yourself, as long as, I would say, as long as the rabbanut approved the Adam. And I've heard such things. Now the rabbanut, they're saying, this is a few years ago, they said, they said when you're dealing with people who aren't from, don't have kosher edom, because what if the wife's mizana and it's going to be a problem with mamzeres, ashes ish, and this and that? Better she shouldn't have a din of an ashes ish. So then b'chlal. So why can't you let the Reform and conservative rabbis do the weddings, and just as long as you approve who can get married? But that's how it is. They, but the Haredim don't hold from the Rabbalut. So how do you pick? How do you make these decisions? It doesn't work. So that's the big answer against Rabbi Kahane saying that we should impose the Hilchos Malachim. How do you paskin? We don't have a Shulchan Aruch on Hilchos Malachim. We don't have. So how do you decide? How do you pick? How do you paskin? We only have a Rambam. You just go straight out of the Rambam. So when you have a kasha in the Rambam, how do you pick? How do you decide? So that's the real issue with Rabbi Kahane. Not he was a racist. People should stop accusing him of being a racist. He wasn't a fascist. He wasn't. He just wanted the Medina should follow halacha. But the problem is because there's such a diverse opinions within authentic halacha, and also the vast majority of Jews couldn't give a damn about what the halacha has to say. So how do you paskin? How do you make these decisions? It's too complicated, and the bigger issue, of course, is Zionism, is pekuach nefesh, where people's lives are at stake. So how do you manage something like this? The answer is you can't. And so that's why I say there shouldn't be a Jewish state. I'm not saying give it all the way to the Arabs. I'm saying just don't call it a Jewish state. And really what they should do, in my opinion, is annex the land. They could share it with the Arabs. They don't have to, but have a strong constitution like America has to make sure that the terrorists don't take over. Even Rabbi Kahane would always say, well, what if democratically and legally the Arabs just become the majority in Israel? So then what will happen? So we'll stop being a Jewish state, And so to me, the answer is uvuchein, as long as they let Jews live there peacefully, give them equal rights. Who cares? Let them become a majority. My friend Asher Meza, his answer would be, make them all Gerim. Or at least, they do the same thing with the Russians. So why can't they do it with the Arabs? Meaning, or give them opportunity. Let them know the possibility is there. Maybe, there are a lot of Muslims who convert to Christianity at threat of death. In Arab countries, in Muslim countries. So why can't? So maybe if we offer Judaism to them, maybe there would be a considerable amount would be needed. And the thing is that we're finding out that a lot of these Palestinian Arabs are actually either Jewish themselves or come from Jewish ancestry. Because, for the most part, it's because in 1929, when you had the pogroms in Hebron, a lot of Jews, they became like Anusim. They were forced to convert to Islam. And there's actually a very high number of these people that call themselves Palestinians only converted to Islam within the last 80, 90 years. It's true. They were really Jews. And some within the last 150, 200 years. A lot of these people were Jewish who converted to Islam, but most people are not aware of that. But, but Rabbi Kahane, he always said, if Arafat would convert to Judaism tomorrow, he would be just as Jewish as Kahane. And it's true. He would be a Kohen like Kahane, but and so that shows that he's not a racist. He's a religionist. But to be a religionist, to me, makes sense, because if you believe that religion is a matter of ethics and morals and truth, and that's the same thing. Christian missionaries certainly have that approach to their religion. Secular ideologues have that approach to their religious views of secularism and atheism, that they really want to spread and convert people who believe in God, theistic people, to their atheism, to their religion of atheism. For the most part, not everybody. There are atheists who just don't care what people believe, and just that's their own thing. But certainly the progressive left atheists, that's their approach. All right, whatever it is. Rabbi Kahane, a lot of his ideas were very strong Torah ideas. Not his ideas in Zionism, but his other ideas. Very in line with Torah. He was a very wise man. From those three, from Rabbi Kook and Rabbi Soloveitchik and Rabbi Kahane, the one I like the best is Rabbi Kahane, and maybe the second best I like Rabbi Soloveitchik, and then just me personally. And Rabbi Kook, I still see nice things about him. I don't hate him. I don't think he was a Rasha. The other two I certainly think were tzaddikim. Maybe Rabbi Kahane wasn't the gadol like the Torah, like Rabbi Soloveitchik, but he was a tzaddik. He was a tzaddik. Even he made mistakes, whatever. All right, but I disagree with him. That's all. But tzaddik is yoga thing. All right, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. And the next videos we'll talk about the ultra-Orthodox world and their approach. I mean, this is also putting aside the fact that there are just regular people who have their own views, lay people. That doesn't really make much of a difference in Judaism, except for how we described it, and the fact that it just makes things more complicated. It doesn't change the truth, it changes the demographics. All right, God bless you. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.